delighted to let you know that the jua kali sector in Kenya has not been left behind and is fully playing its rightful role in supporting the current national agenda towards industrialization by contributing to the manufacturing to GDP targets of 15% by 2027 and the 20% by 2030, which has already been agreed between the government and our bigger brothers, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Towards contributing to this national target, we as an organization are undertaking several programs under the MSME pillar of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, as well as participating in flagship government initiatives geared towards catalyzing the sector's resilience, efficiency, and productivity. Firstly, industrial and manufacturing enterprises require highly technical skills. Towards this end, we have mapped over 6,000 of our most experienced skilled artisans and master craftspersons across the country to provide skilled labor in the implementation of the affordable housing program, as well as the county aggregation and industrial parks, KIPES. Further, we are partnering with the State Department for TVET to provide practical training opportunities for TVET trainees as part of building a critical mass of skilled manpower for this agenda. Further, in collaboration with the State Department for MSMEs, we are involved in the modernization and retooling of 500 of our work sites across the country and the establishment of small business development centers, part of which we have 200 constituency industrial development centers, which are occupied by our members' associations, and will be soon form part of the national network of very modernized cottage industries. To adopt to digital and appropriate manufacturing technology, as an organization, we are championing and facilitating the formation of common clusters and subsector associations around KIPES sites, where the national and the county governments could set up common user manufacturing facilities for thousands of aspiring MSEs, since machinery is capital intensive and expensive for most of the individual artisans. Further, we are spearheading a major sector digitalization agenda with the support of the International Labour Organization to adopt distributed manufacturing model where the jua kali sector can access the benefits of Industry 4.0 in the manufacturing processes. Of course, chief guest and colleagues, the above sector efforts have not come without challenges. But I don't want to list all of them because there are many. I just want to mention one, and the only one. And this is the cost of power. Most of our jua kali work sites are either not connected to power or they are connected to inappropriate power, and therefore they become a challenge. But even those that are connected to power, it is very expensive to be able to afford the cost of power for production. As we conclude, we therefore look forward to working closely with the government, the Ministry of Industry, and all other government agencies that are supporting the manufacturing agenda so that we play our part as a sector and as Kenyans. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Many thanks. We have heard from the Jua Kali sector. Asante Sana for reminding us, especially on matters regarding the cost of power. I'd like to give some guidance to all the speakers coming on stage. In the interest of time, you are free to write on the protocols already observed. So please, let's observe that as we come on stage. Let's now listen to the Association of Manufacturers, and I can see Mr. Rajan Shah is here with us. Rajan, please, the floor is yours. Let's appreciate him as he makes his way here.
Honorable Rebecca Miano, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry, Your Excellency, Madam Anne Waiguru, Chairperson of the Council of Governors, and all invited dignitaries, both from government, agencies, and captains of industry, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is a great pleasure to join you all this morning for the Kenya Industrialization Conference, which is running across the whole of Africa. It is widely recognized that industrialization is key to development. Hardly any country has developed without industrializing. The manufacturing sector has continued to provide sustainable and decent jobs and created wealth resulting in high growth among industry-driven economies, especially the East Asian countries. Further industrialization continues to be the main avenue for successful development. It enables countries to build and strengthen the skills and capabilities to compete and succeed within the new technological paradigm. This is the reason that the manufacturing sector is regarded as the engine of economic growth. Kenya cannot be an exception to this truth. A robust manufacturing sector with strong linkages to export markets will support Kenya to achieve a high economic growth rate, diversify our export basket, reduce our trade imbalance, and reduce our exposure to external shocks. With the manufacturing sector facing dynamic changes in the wake of globalization and technological disruptions, it is imperative for Kenya to position itself as an industrial hub that promotes competitive industries in the global sphere. Kenya aspires to attain an industrialized economy status as outlined in the Vision 2030. Despite this, the contribution of Kenya's manufacturing sector to GDP has been declining in recent years, pointing towards premature deindustrialization. To transform Kenya into a competitive industrial hub, we must implement effective strategies to drive the growth of local industries whilst encouraging new investments. Global competitiveness is essential to industrialization and sustained productivity. It ensures a country's capacity to provide productive jobs, decent wages, and consequently a dependable social support system for its population. Kenya sits in a privileged position. It is one of the resilient economies in East and Central Africa and is recognized as an investment destination due to factors such as political and economic stability, and its role as a regional hub. Additionally, counties are the frontiers for the promotion of investments and growth of the manufacturing sector. However, our initiatives to sustain existing investments and attracting new ones are impeded by the increasing cost of doing business at national and county levels, high taxes, low volume of trade, and regulatory overreach. We can only ensure our sustainability and self-reliance as a nation if we can set the tone for a vibrant economy. Time is of the essence. Hence, strategic implementation of effective policies not only ensures that such challenges are addressed, but also results in new ideas on increasing productivity and bolsters job creation. It is also vital for Kenya to implement strategies in line with global trends. This decade promises huge opportunities for the sector, particularly with the adoption of new technology, such as continued automation and use of data in manufacturing. Additionally, we expect to see more industries take up initiatives to drive Kenya's green growth and circular economy as we strive for sustainable industrial development. It is time that we put in place measures to ensure that we reap from the global trends and markets and to build a strong future for our country. As Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we remain committed to working with the government and other stakeholders in developing policies and frameworks to boost industrial growth. We will continue to provide strategic advocacy to support the country's transformation into a newly industrialized economy. Our aspiration as Kenya's manufacturing sector is to increase our contribution to GDP to a high of 20% by 2030. This is outlined in the Kenya Manufacturing Vision 20 by 30 strategy that we developed together with the government last year. We have outlined 4 key pillars to drive this agenda that we continue to engage the sector stakeholders on. Firstly, and this is the fundamental and the bedrock, is the pillar of global competitiveness, which looks at our ability to sustainably produce goods and services for which there is a market at a price and quality that the market is willing to pay for. This is both for local and international levels. The second pillar is export-led growth that focuses on how Kenya can leverage on products where we have a comparative advantage and to grow our exports. The third pillar is agriculture for industry, which looks at linking agriculture to industry. This will not only support backward integration, thereby creating jobs and wealth for many in the country, but also expand our export basket in terms of value-added products. The fourth, last but not least, is SME development that looks at ways to intervene and uplift micro, small, and medium businesses through policies that support their growth into domestic and export markets. Through these initiatives, our hope is that by 2030, the sector should create 1 million jobs, enhance employee income by 644 billion, increase real value-added growth in manufacturing to 5.2 trillion, and triple the amount of tax collection from the current 17% of what manufacturing contributes to the tax revenue. To implement this plan, together with the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry, we kicked off sector deep dives to get insights on the opportunities that manufacturing value chains provide and how best to plug into each. Allow me to give you one example, which is the textile and apparel sector. Kenya is now a net importer of cotton, but enormous opportunities to create over 200,000 direct jobs in cotton farming exist. Production of other fibers such as silk and wool present numerous opportunities to tap into the premium market with the fiber to fashion sector, leading to our benefits of local economy. For instance, we currently produce 1.2 million kilograms of wool annually. By increasing farmers involved in wool farming from the current 8,000 to 20,000, we can triple our wool production whilst creating new jobs. In a similar fashion, we can also build on capacity of our textile mills to be able to convert some of these raw materials into fabrics and further on into apparels which we can export into all the various markets around the world where we have access to. Further, through agriculture for industry pillar, We are engaging members in agro-processing sectors to understand industry needs and low-lying opportunities towards integrating agro-processors and farmers. To this end, we have identified 32 value chains and analyzed 6 in particular, namely maize, wheat, avocado, tomato, potato, and pyrethrum, with a focus to understand demand gap, potential for value addition, and sector interest. We will be engaging with the national and county governments on the sectors where we have done this work around the value chains with the focus for the potential for value addition. I conclude. This week's conversations are indeed critical. Countries that have achieved rapid industrialization have done so by putting in place deliberate policies that promote and encourage value addition and diversification of manufactured goods as well as exports. We laud the government for its commitment to grow manufacturing sector. This comes at a critical time for the country, a time to promote shared prosperity. This is only attainable if we realize inclusive growth, reduce inequality, and accelerate poverty reduction. I wish all the best in the deliberations over the next 3 days, and let's grow our country, Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Rajan Shah from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Thank you so much. 4 key take-homes. I think global competitiveness, export-led growth, agriculture sector linkages, and MSME development. I'd like to recognize the presence of the PS for Trade, that is Alfred Kombudo. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd also like to recognize the presence of Lynette Luvai from UNIDO, and also I'd like to recognize the presence of all CEOs who are present, and I might have missed them. Thank you so much for joining us, and for all our delegates who are here with us. It's now time to listen to the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and I think Dr. Ruto is in the house with us. Doctor, are you here? Please come. I think we shall get representation. Karibu sana. Let's appreciate her as she makes her way on stage.
Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Miano, Governor Anwar Nguru, PS Kobudo, PS Dr. Mugwana, Vice Chair Professor Gitai, and all protocols observed. Good morning. My name is Esther Ndenya. I am a local manufacturer, and I run a brand called Ash Flavors. I'm here representing the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce President, Dr. Eric Ruto, who is currently out of the country, and I will read his remarks. Sorry, I beg your pardon, sorry. It gives me great pleasure to be part of this significant conference under the theme Accelerating Africa Free Continental Trade Areas Implementation through Value Chain Integration for Shared Prosperity. As you may be aware, November 20th is proclaimed by the 25th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the Organization of Africa Unity, OAU, as Africa Industrialization Day. The Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement was signed on 21st March 2018 as a free trade area of 54 Africa's 55 countries and a population of 1.3 billion people. The gross domestic product is of 2.5 trillion, and it's the world's largest free trade area with the main purpose of progressively reducing the steep trade barriers and trade costs that have prevented trade growth and prosperity within the continental areas. The Africa Free Continental Trade Areas presents a great potential to significantly contribute to industrialization through value addition to our locally manufactured products. The theme of this conference is aligned with Kenya's aspiration to revive and transform our economy through local manufacturing and local industrialization. The government, in its 2023-2024 national budget, has prioritized manufacturing as a key enabler for realizing its national economic development goals, with allocation of $158 million towards manufacturing and industrialization. Kenya is today optimizing the resources available in focusing on the delivery of 9 government's value chain priority areas, that is tea, coffee, dairy, leather, textile, edible oil, building and construction, rice and blue economy. According to the World Bank, Kenya's manufacturing value-added GDP was reported at 7.2% in 2021, and the State Department for Manufacturing aspires to grow this to 15% by 2027 and 20% by 2030. To make this happen, we need to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in this space, such as new technologies and innovation and industrial research facilities and programs. In leather and leather production, opportunities include provision of common affluent treatment technologies, the development of leather industrial parks, technologies for the production of leather accessories, including footwear and articles. In building and construction materials, opportunities include provision of technologies, equipment, and construction materials. Opportunities exist for supplying industrial technologies of manufacturing of alternative building materials for construction. In the sector of garments and textiles, opportunities include modernization of cotton ginneries, textile mills, technologies for optimization and integration of cotton and ginneries and textile mills. In the private sector, these targets simply cannot be achieved without the private sector. While governments have signed and ratified the Africa Free Continental Trade Areas, it is companies and businesses, enterprises that trade across Africa far more than the government. This means that the Africa private sector must be strengthened to leverage the provisions and protocols of the Africa Free Trade Continental Areas to expand the intra-African trade to create prosperity. The government structure of the Africa Free Trade Continental Areas provides for establishment of an African Business Council as a platform for aggregating and articulating the views of the private sector, the continental policy formulation processes. That is through provision of public sector partnerships, especially on infrastructure, establishment of business partnerships for investments through joint ventures, contribution of policy processes to establish conducive investment processes. Joint business councils and private sector can contribute to addressing supply-side constraints in the continents of the Africa Free Continental Trade Areas being achieved. Mobilizing of savings and investments back in Africa to enhance exports to the rest of the world should also be strengthened, and ensuring their fiscal obligation to contribute to the continental revenues. Members of the Africa Free Continental Trade Areas Committee, that is the engagement with the Kenya government to advocate for policies to support the implementation of the same. Organized seminars and workshops to educate businesses about the agreements and its benefits should also be done. Enrollment of regional digital platform in support of the Africa Free Trade Continental Diversification Marketplace, ISOCO, and automation of the Certificate of Origin through the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. Country-to-country engagement through the MOUs, that is between Botswana, South Africa, Cairo, and Ghana, has already has already been done. So these are some of the National Chamber of Commerce achievements that have been done so far. And there's also been business matchmaking through trade promotion, missions to South Africa, mission to DRC Congo, missions to Egypt, missions to Uganda and Ghana, and business inquiries that is between Kenya and Botswana, between Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, and Ethiopia. This is so far what has been done by the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And in conclusion, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce continue to advocate and help businesses to take advantage of the opportunities presented by the Africa Free Trade Continental areas and contribute to the growth and development of the Kenyan economy and Kenya's aspiration of attaining the status of newly industrialized country in a clean and serene environment by the year. However, this to be achieved, it calls for concerted efforts by all stakeholders to create a conducive environment for manufacturing opportunities to be conceived, grow, and expand as viable as sustainable business. And I give the remarks on behalf of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry President. I also chair the Manufacturing Committee at the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the voice of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we'd like to thank them for highlighting the strides that have been made. Let me take this moment to recognize the presence of Professor Funio Kojima from the Denso Corporation in Japan, as well as recognize the presence of Zhang Eugene, the Minister Counselor, Economic and Commercial at the Embassy of the People's Republic of China. We're delighted to have you with us. Next on stage, we have representation from the Kenya Private Sector Alliance to come and speak to us on some of the strides which have been made. KEPSA representation do we have in the house? It looks like we don't have KEPSA in the house, so let me invite from UNIDO, Ms. Kawira Bukiana with us? Yes, Karibu sana, please. Let's appreciate her as she makes her way here.
Honorable Rebecca Miano, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry, Your Excellency Anwai Guru, Chair of the Council of Governors, Dr. Juma Mukwana, Principal Secretary, SDI, Alfred Kombundo, Principal Secretary, Trade, Captains of Industries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Lynette Luvai, Deputy Representative at the UN Industrial Development Organization, and I have the honor of delivering these opening remarks on behalf of the UNIDO Acting Representative, Ms. Kawira Buchana, at this auspicious opening of the Kenya Industrialization Conference 2023. Indeed, the conference theme, Accelerating FCFTA Implementation Through Value Chain Integration for Shared Prosperity, is not only timely and relevant, but also aligns to this year's Africa Industrialization Day theme of accelerating women and processing for an integrated market, which underscores the importance of empowering women and processing to propel inclusive, sustainable industrialization in Africa. Despite the fact that women represent the majority of the African population, their involvement in the overall development process, especially in industrialization, is limited. According to a UNIDO report, women in Africa constitute only 38% of the manufacturing workforce, despite being responsible for up to 80% of food production and processing. Moreover, women are estimated to make up to 70% of the informal economy in some African countries. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, women in processing play a crucial role in various industries and service sectors. They contribute significantly in the sectors of agriculture, industry, and tourism in Africa. Further, involving women is not only imperative for gender equality, it is also important in fostering accelerated socio-economic development. African women in processing have the potential to contribute in the implementation of the AfCFTA. This will be leveraged by coming up with a separate protocol on women focused on their involvement in intra-African trade through the FCTA. Their involvement will contribute not only to trade, but also the areas of product diversification, spatial development, job creation, inclusive growth, and among others, cross-border industrial clustering. However, we know that women in processing face significant challenges, including limited access to finance, insufficient skill set for adopting modern processing techniques, absence of support institutions, restricted market access, as well as limited access to modern technologies. To address these challenges, there must be heightened commitment in supporting African women in processing. Key measures include industrial skills development, creation of opportunities for targeted industrial upgrading for women-owned enterprises, improved market access, and also technology transfer in relevant productive sectors. To emphasize affirmative action policies to boost women's presence in the processing industry is critical. As I conclude, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on this Africa Industrialization Day, we therefore call upon governments, development partners, academia, the private sector, and civil society to enhance collaboration in creating an enabling environment for the emergence and spread of women in processing industries across Africa. By collectively addressing gender disparities and providing equal opportunities for women in industrialization processes, we can accelerate Africa's journey towards inclusive growth and sustainable development. And with those few remarks, I thank you. Asanteni.
Thank you very much, Lynette Levi from UNIDO, and for highlighting the role that you play in this space. We now want to listen to the voice of government, and let me start with inviting on stage PS Kombudo to come and give us some brief remarks. Karibu sana. Let's appreciate the PS.
Morning, everybody. How are you doing today? To our Cabinet Secretary for Investments, Trade and Industry, to the Chair of the Council of Governors, colleague Principal Secretary, our hosts from the university, our friends from the private sector, the Association of Manufacturers, the Chamber, and our friends from UNIDO, to all entrepreneurs, people concerned with manufacturing, and I hope there are a few students also in this hall. Good morning. So mine will be very brief, just to underscore the importance of this manufacturing week, and I'd like to say it more from a trade perspective, is that manufacturing is extremely important for our export performance and our trade performance for a number of reasons. Number one, it enables us to move more towards competitiveness-based exports, to utilize our resources that we have developed in industry and so forth. But number two, it helps us make more out there. We are a country that when you look at our top 5 or 6 products, many of them are exported in their raw format, and it is industry and manufacturing that has the capability of doubling, tripling, quadrupling the value of our exports. And for that reason, this manufacturing week and the issues that come out from it are extremely important for trade. So I wish you the best with this week's proceedings, and the trade sector will help you in 2 ways. We will continue opening markets for you, like we have done, for example, with the European Union, continue to have conversations with the US, continue to have conversations in the African Continental Free Trade Area and so forth. But number two, we shall provide you with export support so that as you manufacture your products, you are assured of the markets out there and the support out there to make it worthwhile. Thank you very much and enjoy the week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, PS Kombudo. And without much further ado, Dr. Juma Mukwana, karibu sana, the floor is yours. Let's appreciate Dr. Juma as he comes.
The CS for Investments, Trade and Industry, Honorable Rebecca Miano, Her Excellency the Governor, and the Chair of the Council of Governors, Her Excellency Anne Waiguru, the Chair of CAM, my brother Rajan Shah, the CEO of CAM, Anthony Mwangi, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, who is also my teacher, Professor Kiama Kitahi, and others. Good morning. For me, this has been a very steep learning curve, because when we were told that we would be having the Africa Industrialization Day in 20th of November 2023, the thinking that I had with my team was, how do we make this different? Because we also know that our manufacturing has been having issues. It has been declining, and yet we know that manufacturing holds the key for growing this economy. As indicated earlier, the experiment that we sat down with my heads of departments to put together was a very big experiment, because this is something that the State Department had not done before. So I was not sure how it would work, but we did set up a committee that brought together the State Department of Industry, State Department of Trade, State Department of Investment, Energy, Crops Development, the Council of Governors, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and others, to try for the first time, because this is really for us was an experiment, to put this conference together. I really want to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank the people who put this together, and maybe for a start, let me get the committee that put this together to stand up, just to be acknowledged. And the committee was chaired by Julius Grima. I know they have had a lot of meetings to put this together. I also want to appreciate and acknowledge the many sponsors that came through. This conference has been put together through the generous contribution of a lot of people. Let me ask those who have sponsored this conference to also stand up for acknowledgement. Thank you very, very much. We had very generous contributions. Close to 20 million shillings was raised through the generous contribution of industry. I also know that we put this conference together at a time when we obviously had a number of issues, especially with industry, because of the taxation issues that were put up in the Finance Bill 2023. There was a bit of push and pull in terms of what works, what should have been put there, what should not have been put there. And that may have affected how far we have come in this journey. But for me, this was really an experiment. The fact that nearly 60 years after independence, we are putting together the first ever industrialization conference. I really want to thank all of you, the sponsors, all of you, the committee that worked on this program. I want to say that for Africa, we are in a very tight scenario, because if you look across the continent, not just for Africa, but for Kenya, our aspiration has been to grow our manufacturing. The future of our children, where we have over 70% of the young people, 70% of our population being below 35 years, means that we really need to generate jobs. And the only place where you can grow jobs is through manufacturing. I do know that Kenya has had several attempts and several policies and several pronouncements on how we can grow manufacturing. The idea behind this conference was to say that we take this out of the ministry and bring it to where it belongs, the people who are doing manufacturing, so that we can say these ideas that we are having, these policies that we are developing, can they work in practice? So the purpose of this meeting is to really have a very robust conversation, not of government, but government talking with academia, talking with industry, talking with policymakers, so that we can say, are our plans working? Is the way we are doing things going to work for us? Because where we are, we have actually run out of time in terms of spurring our manufacturing. If you look at one of the statistics that would be critical for us, is that while the African population today, 1.2 billion people, is 17% of the world's population, Africa's share of manufactured products is only 3%. So our ideal situation is that as Africa, because we are 17%, we should be manufacturing 17% of the world manufactured products. Our share is only 3%. The other statistics that comes in well, because we are talking about Africa continental trade area, is that while other continents, if I compare the statistics for manufacturing, if we look at Europe, the percentage of Europe as part of the world population is only 9%. But Europe is manufacturing 25%. So while they are only 9%, they are manufacturing 25%. You can say similar things about Asia and others, meaning that Africa is punching below its weight. Two, when we look at intra-Africa trade, we find that if you look at within Europe, 70% of the businesses there, the trade is between European countries. So intra-Europe trade is up to 70%. Intra-Asia trade is in the range of 35 to 40%, meaning all the goods traded within the Asian subcontinent are made or produced within Asia. Intra-Africa trade, which we are discussing today, is only 15%, meaning that Africa is doing business with itself only up to 15%. 85% of our business is then done with other external people. There's nothing wrong with that, but then if you look at the impact of that, means that every time, and that trade is because we are always importing goods from other people. And that means, when you look at the level of unemployment, the high level of unemployment here, is because we are not doing enough for ourselves. Because every time we import goods into Africa, we export the jobs that we are looking for. So we can see that we are developing universities, we are developing TVET institutions, we are creating skills, but at the end of the day, these people have no opportunity because we are not growing our manufacturing, we are not growing our intra-Africa trade. So ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is a leading manufacturer in the East and Central Africa region, and the country aspires to industrialize and to become the preferred manufacturing hub for the East Africa and also for Africa. Industrialization, if well done, will result in increasing incomes, creation of employment, raising value-added activities, and diversifying our economy. We would like to have a Kenya that is able to manufacture not just for itself, but to manufacture for the East African region and for the African continent. We do know that in the past, We have been a leader in manufacturing in the region, but we must also appreciate that there is a lot of increasing competition. There is now a lot of manufacturing that is coming up within our neighboring countries, so we need to relook at our strategies. We need to relook at how we are doing business here so that we remain ahead of the game, so that we remain competitive. The Kenya government, under the leadership of His Excellency, the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, through the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, has prioritized manufacturing with the objective of improving the livelihoods of the people, creating jobs, adding value to agricultural raw materials to create income, not just for farmers, but also to create employment. Towards this end, the State Department for Industry, which I represent here, undertakes to forge and strengthen collaboration with all stakeholders to create a conducive business environment which encourages manufacturing activities to be conceived and nurtured to grow and thrive into viable businesses. And this calls for all of us to pull together, whether we are in academia, industry, policymakers, development partners, that we want to work together to improve the Kenyan manufacturing environment. This year, as I said, for the first time, and we are also learning, so there may have been mistakes that we have made, because really this was the first time that we were pushing ourselves to try and put this together. This year we have organized the first ever Kenya Industrialization Conference, which will be celebrated from today, that is the 20th of November to 22nd. The conference is anticipated to bring a large number of people from different sectors in order to deliberate, so that we will have presentations, we'll have discussions, we'll have breakaway groups for different commodities, exhibitions, so that we can all learn from our journey for industrialization. We invite you to participate in these plenary sessions. We also have breakaway sessions that will be dedicated to different commodities, such as automotive, cotton, and apparel, leather, and so on. So mine is to invite you to contribute robustly to the discussions that we'll be having, so that we can create a manufacturing environment that will grow our manufacturing in the country. I thank you.
Many thanks, PS, for your remarks and for giving us some flavor around the structure of this conference and where we can participate in. Industrialization is not about the national level only. We also have the devolved governments, and we are privileged to have the chairperson of the Council of Governors, that is Honorable Anne Waiguru. Please come on stage to make your remarks, after which I will invite again the PS to invite the CS to make her remarks. Let's appreciate the chairperson of the Council of Governors as she makes her way here.
Honorable Rebecca Miano, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. PS is present, Chief Executive Officers present, chairs of Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and KAM, UNIDO representatives, distinguished guests, all protocols observed, good morning. It is a pleasure to join you today at this Kenya Industrialization Conference 2023, where we converge our collective aspirations of accelerating African Continental Free Trade Area implementation through value chain integration for shared prosperity. This strongly resonates with our national bottom-up economic transformation agenda of impactful economic turnaround for all. As we embark on this transformative journey, I am reminded of the timeless words of Peter Drucker. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Today, these words take on a profound significance as they invite us not only to envision the future of African Continental Free Trade Area implementation, but to actively craft it through value chain integration. Our mission here, therefore, is not only to anticipate the future of industrialization, but to be architects of an inclusive and sustainable industrial development for all. Ladies and gentlemen, as we delve into discussions, collaborations, and exhibitions over the next few days, let us collectively create a future where value chains are seamlessly intertwined, where economic prosperity is shared by nations, counties, and where the industrial landscape of Kenya becomes a testament to the transformative power of collaboration. In county governments, we are leveraging on distributed economies, an alternative structure for society with small-scale businesses in a local economic context that will lead to a more sustainable integration. With 47 distributed economies, we have the unique opportunity to tap into diverse local endowments that will be organized in the form of flexible units that are synergistically connected with each other to achieve scale and mutually beneficial relationships. Distinguished participants, capitalizing on these distributed economies will not only allow us to integrate backwards our value chain towards after implementation, but will also transform our counties by creating employment, expanding income potentials, and eliminating poverty. To be more specific, agribusiness presents one such opportunity across counties in Kenya. Article 3.3 of this agreement seeks to promote industrial development through diversification and regional value chain development, agricultural development, and food security. This presents an opportunity of transforming Kenya's agriculture into high-value added industries in counties. Further, the agreement encourages agro-industrial parks in regions targeting both the integration and upgrading of activities that includes production, upstream and downstream transformation, processing, logistics, and marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, to capitalize on this agreement, the two levels of government have entered into partnership to establish the County Aggregation and Industrial Parks, which we call the KIPES, whose goal is to grow manufacturing and investments through agro-industries and enhance productivity of the various value chains. These parks will boost overall national agro-processing, increase farmer income, create jobs, reduce post-harvest loss, consolidate Kenya produce for inter-county trade and the export market. The county governments cannot accomplish these goals in isolation. I invite you to join us in creating a thriving industrial parks that will drive economic growth, generate substantial return, and make a lasting impact on our economies. We can rekindle the spark in our cotton fields, breathe new life into our leather and apparel factories, and unlock the untapped potential of our pyrethrum, coffee, banana, avocado, tea, and coffee farms. The county governments will continue to play an important role in facilitating the success of these KIPES. Besides the allocation of land for construction of the shades and financing the constructions, the county governments will support access to finance by the farmers and the MSMEs and provision of necessary infrastructure, including roads, electricity, water, and sewerage system. In addition, county governments, in collaboration with the national government, will continue to provide regulatory support, including developing guidelines, legislation to facilitate their intra-county trade and regional trade. County governments will also incentivize investments in the counties and streamline the approval processes for investors and industry players. The county governments, ladies and gentlemen, will also play a role in facilitating market linkages by connecting the parks businesses with suppliers, customers, and other stakeholders in the region. Further, county governments will facilitate the development of supply chain, offering training and capacity building programs to local businesses and assisting with market research to identify growth opportunities. County governments will also support the expansion of these aggregation centers. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, as a council, we note and appreciate the role of the private sector and partners in transforming the county's development and growth through investments. Your contribution is immense and is evidenced across counties. Let me congratulate the event organizers for spearheading this conference, which is truly timely in advancing inclusive growth across the counties while leveraging on the investment opportunities in our counties. May this conference be a crucible of ideas, a forge for innovative solutions, and a catalyst for the acceleration of AFCFTA implementation, heralding a future characterized by shared prosperity, economic resilience, and the realization of the AFCFTA's full potential. Thank you, and let us embark on this journey of creation and transformation. Asanteni sana.
Madam Anne Waiguru, the chairperson of the Council of Governors, we thank you so much for your remarks and for reminding us of the role that counties play in industrialization. Let me invite PS, Dr. Mukwana, to come and invite the CS to speak to us this morning, giving us the keynote remarks, and the CS will also officially launch the conference, so that will also be a critical moment after her remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry has 3 state departments, and we are happy. So there's the State Department for Industry, which I represent. We have the State Department for Trade, represented by my brother, Alfred Kombudo. We have the State Department for Investment Promotion, led by Honorable Abubakar Hassan Abubakar. So it's now my pleasure to invite the CS, the State Department of Investments, Trade and Industry, Honorable Rebecca Mieno, to come and make her remarks and also officially declare this conference officially open. Please be upstanding to invite the CS.
Thank you, PS. We can have our seats. The chairperson, Council of Governors, Excellency Anne Waiguru, the principal secretaries present today, the Vice Chancellor, University of Nairobi, and event host, the UNIDO representative, CEO, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and even the chairman, CEOs present, esteemed delegates, panelists, exhibitors, decision makers, manufacturers in the room, ladies and gentlemen, it is very gratifying to witness Kenya's first ever industrialization conference, whose occurrence coincides with Africa Industrialization Day, which is commemorated every 20th of November. The theme of this year's Africa Industrialization Day is Industrializing Africa, renewed commitment towards inclusive and sustainable industrialization and economic diversification. The theme is timely, coming at a time when Africa is gearing up for enhanced industrialization in an atmosphere that is committed to incorporate inclusivity and sustainability as core values. And as I make my remarks from the onset, just to bring regards and sincere apologies from the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, who had other duties out of the country. And a lot has been said by the previous speakers, a lot of content, including a summary of what we are doing at the county governments. But in the meantime, The theme for this 3-day industrialization conference, which is accelerating Africa Continental Free Trade Area, implementation through value chain integration for shared prosperity. As the Africa Free Trade Agenda continues to take shape, Kenya has a chance to offer her favorable credentials as Africa's manufacturing hub and of choice. Ladies and gentlemen, the time for Kenya, as well as the rest of Africa, to create a strong manufacturing culture, replete with well-thought-out support systems and mechanisms has come. Once a strong national manufacturing culture and foundation are in place, Kenya will maximize her industrial output in multiple facets of production and value addition of locally manufactured goods. Focus on strategic value chains will, in turn, lead to improved economic outcomes, an eventuality most welcome throughout the continent, not just in Kenya. Concerning the future of industrialization in Africa in general, and in Kenya in particular, I am encouraged by the resolve made by the EU Conference of Ministers on their first extraordinary session held in September 2007 in South Africa. The action plan for the accelerated industrial development of Africa agreed upon during that meeting was recently adopted by the East African Community and incorporated in the draft EAC industrialization policy and strategy, whose adoption by the EAC summit is expected very soon before the end of this year. Ladies and gentlemen, in the fourth medium-term plan, it is anticipated that manufacturing will gain further impetus from opportunities provided by the AU Agenda 2063, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, Kenya Vision 2030, EAC Industrialization Policy and Strategy, and the UN Agenda 2030 on Sustainable Development Goals and Equitable Economic Development in the spirit of leaving no one behind. The inclusivity intimated here blends perfectly with the Kenya Kwanza administration's commitment to deliver on the ideas of the bottom-up transformation agenda, which is the plan. During the period, the manufacturing sector aims at increasing the contribution of Kenya's GDP from 7.2% to a minimum of 15%. And like the Principal Secretary has said, we have seen the contribution by the manufacturing sector to GDP decline. But starting now, we must come up with strategies and policies and actions that will improve this situation for the well-being of our people and the growth of the country. It also targets increasing the competitiveness of goods manufactured in the country, the level of domestic and foreign investments, and the volume of goods manufactured in Kenya for export, over and above creating over 1 million additional jobs annually. That may sound ambitious, but I am persuaded that if we all put our minds to it, the plan will see the light of day sooner than later. Ladies and gentlemen, as we inch closer to our industrialization dream, both national and county governments are pushing towards an integrated and sustainable industrial development pathway targeting adoption of cleaner production technologies and resource efficiency. Besides, every effort ought to be made to embrace best global manufacturing practices and waste disposal. As Kenya, and as we strive to implement the ideas of Vision 2030, anchored on industrialization as the key to a middle-income economy with a high quality of life for all its citizens by the year 2030, the following 4 imperatives are critical. Number 1, availability of quality, reliable, and affordable energy, availability of appropriate technologies for industrialization, availability of skilled workforce, and finally, availability of finance for industrial development. To put the 4 in place, concerted efforts by multiple stakeholders represented in this event today is important. Only then will it be possible to unlock the immense potential of Kenya's manufacturing sector for the good of all. My ministry will make every effort to improve the operating environment for manufacturing to thrive in Kenya. The national government will collaborate closely with the county governments, with the private sector, and development partners to deliver on this promise. Deliberate strategies will be implemented towards attracting more domestic and high-impact foreign direct investments to inject capital, expertise, and technological advancement that will ultimately culminate in a growth trajectory for our economy. While at it, the government will also ensure that policy, legal, institutional, and regulatory frameworks are more responsive to the needs of unfolding circumstances that are germane to Kenya's desired industrial transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I call upon our local manufacturers to embrace globally acclaimed sustainable industrial practices, starting with renewable energy, which we have in abundance in the country. And may this conference mark the point of departure that will in turn kickstart a fresh industrial journey for Kenya, and may the outlook thereafter become the center pole of Kenya's sustainable economic prosperity into the foreseeable future. As I wish the participants a fulfilling experience during the 3-day conference, I do have a clarion call and a call to action that we come up with implementable resolutions that will kickstart, that will renew our industrialization policies, and that will be of great benefit to this country's economic growth. I'm happy to note that we have all categories of manufacturers represented. We do have the big manufacturers, the medium, the small. We have the counties represented. We have women in manufacturing and the youth. And for sure, this conference is not in vain. And at the end of the 3 days, we will be up here reading out the resolutions that will renew our resolve in support of industrialization. I thank you all and wish you fruitful deliberations. Asante sana.
Thank you, CS. Let's appreciate her one more time. CS, before you leave, CS needs to declare the conference officially open, so please just come and make that declaration.
And now, I declare the Industrialization Conference in Kenya 2023 officially opened.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, CS Rebecca Miano. Asante sana for your keynote remarks. We truly appreciate the guidance that you have given us in terms of the expectations and some of the outcomes which we should be focusing on as we start this very critical 3 days journey. We are going to a very critical segment of the program where we shall have the CS and the keynote guests do some visits to the exhibitions which are just stationed right outside here. I believe there's a team from the ministry which will be guiding on how that is done. For the rest of us, I'd like us to remain seated because we have a choir with us. We also have the police choir with us. We shall be getting some entertainment as we wait for the next session, which kicks off at 12:15. So we have about an hour for this. So CS and team, you will be shown to the exhibition centers where you'll be able to sample some of the works which are being done by our manufacturers in this country towards the agenda of industrializing this country and building on the capacities it is injecting into the economy. So that is right outside here. So you'll just exit via this door and turn to your right, and I'm sure you'll be able to get guidance on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall be having the next session starting at noon, and that will be a session which will be led by the PS himself, Dr. Juma Mukwana, on Kenya's industrialization agenda, after which we shall have another session on the growth of manufacturing in Japan, lessons for Africa, which will be steered by Professor Fumio Kojima. And thereafter, we shall move into Kenya's new development paradigm, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, that's BETA, by Dominic Menjo, who is advisor to the President on Economic Affairs. And that program will be running up till 2:30 p.m. That program will be running up till about 2:30 p.m. So we shall have a very stimulating session on that side. So we shall allow the keynote guests to finalize their exhibition visits, and then we continue with our program. Thank you.
Are offering right here in the country. Remember, it's the Industrialization Week is happening currently in the country. As also various other countries are also hosting this Industrialization Week. It is happening parallel to the Africa Industrialization Week in Niger. Right there, you can see the CES Principal Secretary for Industry, as well as various dignitaries right there supporting, or rather foreseeing, what various companies like Maisha Mabati are offering here in the country. You've heard from her speech. It's all about promoting local production and also value addition of manufactured goods. They have talked of 34 key pillars to ensure that we grow the manufacturing sector from 7% to 20%. And these are some of the initiatives that the government is rolling out in regards to supporting local production here in the country. The CS right there engaging with Maisha Mabati on the products that they are showcasing. He will be going around the various tents right here at the University of Nairobi. He's moving from one tent to the other just to see what the country has offered when it comes to growing the economy through industrialization. You've had the speech from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. You've also had from the industry players and also from the partners, that is development partners, and also academia right here. As we push towards growing the manufacturing sector. As I had earlier on indicated, the manufacturing sector contributes about 7.2% to the GDP. And this whole conference is all about ensuring that this contribution to the GDP grows by 15% by 2027 and 20% by 2030. This is a plan the government has ensuring that we grow the manufacturing sector right here in the country. Right there on the screen, the CS speaking to Simba Cement as they showcase their products right there. Remember, the theme of this conference is accelerating AFTA, that is African Continental Free Trade Area implementation through value chain integration for a shared prosperity. And the theme resonates well with the aspirations of the African continent to accelerate the process of industrialization. Remember, this event takes place under the auspices of the African Industrialization Day, an occasion which is celebrated every 20th of November in many African countries as they pledge to commit towards industrializing Africa. You can see right there the Council of this Governor, the CS for Trade and Investment, the PS for Industry, moving from one tent to the other as they get to see some of the various products the country is offering. Remember, the country is pushing towards ensuring that even the counties are involved in the industrialization process, and that's why the COG is here in this conference. Remember, the government is rolling out the county aggregation centers in the counties, in the 47 counties, and some 10 counties already, they have seen these centers being put up. And hence the reason why the chair of the COG is right here to see what they can offer the counties. Remember, the latest statistics indicates that Kenya has experienced fluctuations in the external trade performance over the last 5 years. We have seen the manufacturing sector contribution to the GDP reduced in the last couple of years. And Kenya's overall trade balance continued to widen, resulting in a significant increase in trade deficit from 1.5 trillion shillings in 2018 to 1.61 in 2022. From the speeches that you have heard, most of the dignitaries have talked about relooking at the existing strategies to remain competitive. As you have last seen in the last couple of years, African countries are emerging when it comes to local production, increased local production. And despite Kenya being competitive, it is good to relook at the strategies that are in place to grow the manufacturing sector. That is a call from all industry players right here at the Kenya Conference 2023, or Kenya Industrialization Conference 2023. Remember, this conference has been organized by the Kenya Association of Manufacturers together with the State Department of Industry, together with development partners and also sponsors who are already set up here at the exhibition center. It will be happening for the next 3 days. So this is day one. It will be right here from tomorrow's as well, and on Wednesday as we bring you the discussions and deliberations on industrializing Kenya. The conference has brought together over 100 participants drawn from academia, industry, policymakers, and development partners from national, regional, and international level to consider how to boost the country's industrialization. Now, the 3-day event, which has kicked off today, will include expert presentations on topical issues relating to industrialization, panel discussions, and exhibitions. There will also be plenary sessions or breakaway sessions on various topics and various aspects of industrialization, ranging from global perspectives of best practices, strategies for harnessing opportunities arising from the East African community integration and the African Continental Free Trade Area, that is AFTA. There will also be a breakaway session on local content requirements and local economic development. Also forging and strengthening academia industry policy makers, collaboration for enhanced industrialization, progressing ideas from the classroom to the market. There will also be a breakaway session for that. Innovative financing mechanism for industrialization will also be a topic of discussion right here at the conference. They'll also be looking at the SMEs. They'll be looking at unlocking the potential of micro, small, and medium industries. There will also be a breakaway session on industrialization and the national research agenda. There will also be green manufacturing. Happening right here at the University of Nairobi. Participants will deep dive into the subject.
Sorry.
CS right there. Finalizing.
For the COG for Igoro. Nani anani Evelyn anatumia hizi manini zote.
Tulikuwa naye hapa.
Evelyn.
It's like you're live on KBC.
Yeah.
Honia, hebu niangalie.
Kangai.
Has been indicated in under the Vision 2030. Right here at the exhibition center, we have the Vicky group of companies. We have Maisha Mabati. We have various companies set up. We have Kenya Accreditation Services. We have Kenya Property Institute or Kenya Properties Development. We have Scrap Metal Council, whom have set up all of this is in efforts to relook at Kenya's priority in industry to diversify her products and to do more value addition to reverse the trend. To 7.8 in 2022. The ministry has been advised to take advantage of available agro-based raw materials and should also focus on high-value products where we, as a country, have a competitive advantage in the region, such as automotive assembly, pharmaceuticals, electronics, and communication devices. Now, in automotive sector, for example, they say there's need for adopting e-mobility as it presents a huge opportunity to spur manufacturing, even as it seeks to reduce pollution from the traditional internal combustion engines. They'll also be looking at various advanced technologies based on various components of artificial intelligence, and including blockchain, data policy, and Internet of Things. The theme for this year's in Kenya Industrial Agenda is accelerating after implementation. And this argues well with Kenya's Vision 2030 on the country's economic transformation through accelerating industrialization. Integration will also create a vast market for industrializing Kenya, and with that, more opportunities by way of jobs and income for the Kenyan people. Kenya aspires to attain the status of a newly industrialized country in a clean and serene environment by the year 2030, and is premised on the creation of a flat, sustainable manufacturing activities. Remember, we are still at the Kenya Industrialization Conference 2023, the first ever to be hosted here in the country, and is being hosted parallel with Africa Industrialization Week, currently ongoing in Niger. And other various African countries, let's say about 20 countries, are also recognizing this day as they plan also to industrialize. Remember, this is a joint effort. We have development partners, we have the academia, we have policymakers, and we have industry players whose main goal is to grow the manufacturing sector from where it is right now at 7.8% to 20% by 2030. That is, I know we're planning to be speaking maybe to the CS. I was hoping to have a word with her. Madam CS, if you can join us right here at KBC, and Chair COG, we are right here live at KBC. I'd like to know a few things about this conference, and I'd like you to mention about the aggregation centers, and both of you to talk a little bit about that, the SSEs, what the role they play right here in the country, and also in the industrialization plan.
Thank you very much. We are happy to be here today. 20th of November is Africa Industrialization Day that is celebrated this year, and for the first time Kenya has a celebration. This is the first industrialization conference in the country, and we are happy that we have good attendance. We have Her Excellency the Chair COG, Governor Waiguru, and other renowned participants. In this conference, we will have conversations on how to spur manufacturing. We know that industrialization is catalytic to the economic growth of this country. And we are holding this conference at a time where you look at the statistics and the data available. Our contribution of manufacturing, the manufacturing contribution to GDP has dropped to 7%. And we need to have a resolve to increase that, because it will create jobs, it will flourish our economy and make Kenya self-sufficient. Because if we are able to manufacture and to create the things we need for our use without any deficit, that for sure we will have jobs and we will have money in the pockets of everyone, and we will improve our cost of living.
The county aggregation centers being set up in the counties, I'd like to know the role they will play in industrializing Kenya.
The county aggregation and industrial parks is one of the revolutionary ideas that have come forth. It will increase industrialization, manufacturing, because if you have the aggregation centers for each county, we will have each county being able to manufacture the products that they have and using the resources that we have at the county level. And I do believe that is the real background and the real foundation of industrialization, where you start at the grassroots and at the county. And I'm very happy because the county governments are the ones who are putting all the effort in that. We are supporting them, and I am sure Her Excellency, the Governor, will give that perspective from the county government. But we are really excited to partner with the counties. And when I visualize the future, when we have put up these KIPES, I don't think we will recognize our country anymore from what we know today.
COG, maybe you can speak a little bit about the industrial parks and also the county aggregation centers. Where are we? How many have been set up?
Let me start by first explaining what the county aggregation and industrial parks are. What they are is that for every county, we have set aside space to build centers where we can aggregate our produce according to our strengths. Not necessarily county by county, sometimes even across different counties. For example, in Kirinyaga, we will have in our KIPES a tomato factory, and for that to happen, we have a tomato aggregation center. We have a rice and coffee and tea aggregation center where then they can be processed. And the reason for doing this is that for a very long time, we have had very many challenges when we come to talk to farmers about production. One of them being post-harvest losses. We produce, when they produce very much or produce a lot, then there is no consumption or there is no market, and therefore most of the time they lose their produce. So these parks are supposed to create an environment both for markets, aggregating to sell, but also for value addition, so that you can be able to get markets outside of the country or even outside of the county or country in the region. The significance of that is also that they will not just provide a market for the farmers, for their produce, but they will also provide critical employment for our young people. We know very well that we're having a very huge proportion of our young people not employed, and these industrial parks, both during construction and when they are running, are supposed to provide employment. I'll give you an example. There are factories that are providing employment of about 1,000 people per factory. So if you're in a center and you absorb 5,000 people in every county, will have reduced significantly the level of unemployment. Now, to go to your first question on SEZs and the EPZs and what is the benefit of that, the SEZs, the special economic zones, and the EPZs provide an environment or a zone that is put specifically to attract investors. So when an individual or a company is making a decision to put in 1 billion shillings or 2 billion shillings of a factory in your locality, they need to know that their investment is going to be taken care of, that whatever it is they're investing for, they will get a return. And the SCZ provides that security. They provide tax incentives, a one-stop shop to deal with all the issues regulatory that they may need, licensing, taxes, and all that, but also provide an avenue for marketers and those who would want to buy the goods that are provided in SCZ. So it's an incentive for the private sector, and we hope that that will then attract them to move away just from Nairobi and the big cities, Kisumu, Mombasa, Nakuru, but also moved now to the counties like Kirinyaga is an EPZ, Kiambu has an EPZ, we have Migori and Homa Bay, and there's some also being set up in the northeastern area, so that the development in the country is also spread out, and we also reduce the rural-urban migration. So it deals with very many aspects of employment, production, marketing, and all that consolidated to create an industrialized environment that then provides for the growth of this country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That has been the COG, that is Aino Waiguru, who is also the governor for Kirinyaga County, speaking to us about the ECE, that is special economic zones, and also the aggregation centers being set up right here in the country. And remember, this is a conversation that will be ongoing for the next 3 days. We'll be camping right here at the University of Nairobi as we relook at the industrialization plan. Remember, the goal is to relook at the existing strategies to ensure that we grow the industrialization, or rather we grow the industrialization here in the country, and also grow the manufacturing sector. As you've heard, manufacturing sector right now contributes about 7.8%, but the plan is to grow to 20% by year 2030. Well, I'll take you back to studio, but we'll be right here, and we'll be later on the live broadcast. Back to you.
To many, they're simply the greatest rock band of all time. But here's what German TV had to say.
They've got charm, good music, business sense, and a dose of what can only be described as naive perversity. Let's hope this fever subsides soon, for the sake of the youth.
60 years on, and the fever has definitely not subsided. So why are the Rolling Stones the greatest rock band in history? They are musical innovators. They cultivate a rebellious image. They have a huge cultural influence. They inspire other bands. Their concerts are spectacular, and they're still going strong despite the odds.